You're listening to Metal and High Heels, the official podcast from the magazine about metal, lifestyle, and entertainment.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Metal and High Heels podcast. This is episode 89, and I am here with my co-host.
With Pia, hi.
But we also have two very cool guests today, and these are Leoni and Tiffany from Nuclear Blast.
Hey.
This is so really cool.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Well, before we start, I would like to ask you to introduce yourselves with your name, pronouns, which is a new thing that I wanted to introduce into the podcast since we are trying to be more inclusive and everything. So I am Kiki, she, her. And yes, would you please introduce yourselves with your name, pronouns, and what you do in the label in Nuclear Blast?
Okay, I start. So I'm Tiffany, she, her, and I'm the head of marketing at ND. I joined just at the end of September, so it's been 4 months now. And basically what I'm doing is I'm working with all the different channels and poles of the label to build the strategies for the album releases and ongoing strategies for the artist as a support. That's my core role.
My name is Leoni, short Leo. I'm the head of media relations in Nuclear Blast, and I joined in November 19, not 9. This would be pretty young. And my job is, of course, leading the head of the media relations department, which was formerly known as PR department, promotion, because we were like, especially now that media changed so much in the last years, we thought that media relations is a better name to it, because podcasts like we're doing today is a new part of the job, or influencers or streamers and everything. But of course, we also organize like interviews with the artists. We write press releases. So everything that comes up when it comes to public relations.
That is so cool. Thank you so much, first of all, for sharing that with us and for being here, for your time and for wanting to talk to us. How have you been doing? I mean, the weather is nice. I think it's looking pretty sunny through your windows as well.
Yeah, it's pretty warm here, even though I'm in Hamburg, which is meant to be a rainy city, but we have a lot of sun these days.
That's a myth. I also lived in Hamburg for 3 years, 3.5, and there was so much sun. And I think in Cologne there is much more rain than in Hamburg, the statistics say, at least.
Everywhere is more rain than in Hamburg.
Cool. Looking forward to be in Hamburg then, because I'm moving later this year.
Like Hamburg is the most beautiful city.
Everybody told me it's raining all the time, but I'm glad it's not.
It's a lie.
Oh, you're moving to Germany. Wow. Why would you do that though?
You also moved to Germany, Kiki.
I know. I've been here for almost 14 years. And yes, now I miss the sun a little bit. But no, Germany's nice. It's all good.
Cool. Good to know.
Yes, I hope you'll like it here.
It's pretty nice, since our company is nowadays really spread over all the country as well. Like, we still have people in our headquarters in Donsdorf. We have some in the middle of Germany in Dortmund. Now we have some in Hamburg. We have some in France, in UK, in US. One of my colleagues is in Finland. So it's always pretty nice to like stay in touch over so many countries, and especially when you share information about your daily lives, it can be so different from just details.
Yes, that is really nice, though. Good to know that Nuclear Blast has this remote working and like this, global new work kind of philosophy that hopefully will come more and more now that the pandemic has taught us to work from home, and that everything is possible. I mean, it was possible before. We've been living in a digital age for several years now, and that has been possible. But I think now, finally, at least Germany is embracing it more and more. And so, yeah, for a company also in such a modern and evolving business like a record label, it's important. I think that's really cool. Yes. So should we start talking a little bit more about your work in general, or do we want to go straight to the important point of today?
I'm thrilled to get to know something about the jobs, to be honest. Yeah, first of all, please tell us how your daily routine looks like.
Wow.
Especially now in the pandemic, because I guess sometimes you might also be on tour or helping the bands out on tour, or do you work in the office only? Leo, would you
No,
start
we've
maybe?
never been on tour. Well, we have been on festivals, but we like visit concerts close to back when I lived in next to Donsdorf, always in Stuttgart, Munich, things like that. When concerts will come back, of course, we'll visit concerts in Hamburg. But apart from that, you're mainly in the office. Well, we used to have press days, like I had one last year with Amaranth for I think it was 4 days that we had them in Düsseldorf, and like having the press invited there, but not at the moment. Of course, we're hosting it all online, like with Zoom or Skype press conferences, trying to find new ways how to reorganize listening sessions, things like that. Or like games to involve the fans more, which can Tiffany surely tell more about, but we really try to engage the fans also more. But at the moment, it's really an office job or a home job.
Yeah,
Good.
and since I started, so yeah, 4 months ago, sadly, I just worked in a COVID time, so there was no gig, there was no, yeah, I just stayed home, to be honest. But at least it's super exciting to be starting a new role, and especially in metal, because I used to work in other industries, and so even if the days are mainly work, because in France we have the curfew, we have the lockdown, so there's not so much to do. I used to take burlesque class, but I cannot do anymore because the class is over. So basically, work represents most of my time, but it's pretty cool. I mean, we are chatting a lot with each other, with the artists, trying to as Leo mentioned, find new ways to engage people through digital, with live, with games, with initiatives like we had for the Women's Month. So yeah, that's exciting to start a new job in this period. At least there's something exciting. So
Hmm.
Especially since we have such a fresh and young team.
yeah,
Yeah.
that helps. Yeah.
How creative can you be in your job? So do you work a lot on campaigns, marketing campaigns and stuff like that, or do you communicate more, or how do I have to imagine this?
To me, it's a mix because, of course, there is a really a creative part when you are trying to come with ideas, things never done before for some releases, and especially you have to adapt to each band's DNA because one idea can be amazing for one band and just not fitting the DNA of the other. So there's really a huge part of getting to know the band really well, listening to it, watching videos, learning about it, and then yeah, there is the brainstorm part of finding cool ideas and engaging ideas based on that DNA. So that's the fun part, and also discussing with the artists to also have their input, their objective, the theme of the next album, that type of stuff. And then there is also the operational part, which is all the tasks, copying all the urgencies that we have a lot. And also there are the big rocks, if I can say, which are more the long-term strategy of the label, what we can do as NB, the territories we want to explore, and the budgets, like all the finance part, of course. So yeah, it's a super cool mix of creativity and data and yeah, operational.
That sounds really interesting. Yeah.
What do you love most about your job?
To me, it's really like I think the music industry is pretty special in its way because you never have people who just enter music industry to earn much money. Like everyone is here because they love music. Because I do not know no one who got rich through working in the music industry. So you always have people who are pretty driven and who are enthusiastic. I think I love the brainstorming part when we Tiffany, the team, and me, we all come together and discuss things, and things get bigger and things get a completely new turn because someone else throws in his own idea. And these are the moments when you can feel some kind it sounds a little bit esoteric, but some kind of an energy, like everyone is so enthusiastic and so thrilled that now things start to shape. And I cannot imagine that there's any other industry that has the same drive because everyone's here out of passion, and that's what I love about my job.
How about you, Tiffany?
Yeah, same here. I love the passion everyone's have. I would just love to have gigs again so we can all go
Yes.
together, because that's really the missing part now. Like just having this energy of the live, going together and have beers, and yeah, because it's awesome to be working with people who share that same passion. We can share bands that we listen to each other, discover new stuff. So it's really cool, and yeah, I just miss the real life part of it, but it's gonna come soon.
Hopefully, yeah. Is there something that you hate about your job?
Politics.
Oh, wow.
Yes, word.
Can you expand a little bit more on that?
No, it's just that when you are at these levels of jobs, like head of media relation or head of marketing, of course there are some political decisions that you have to make, and you don't always agree with it, but that's part of the role. I don't think there is any company where you get to this type of jobs that don't include some part of politics. So yeah, that's just part of it.
All right. And you just mentioned again the title, your job title. Head of Media Relations, Leo, and Head of Marketing for Tiff. Those are big titles. So, damn. Nice. And first, first step. And the other thing is, what advice would you give to younger people wanting to get a job like yours?
Just do it. To be honest, and it sounds pretty cliche, but just do it. Like I got my first job offer from Hamburgian label AFM Records, and I was in the end of my journalistic training and the end of my business economy studies. I studied business economy, and I just had like half a year, and I would be through. And when I got this offer, and we were like, okay, but you have to start next month. And I really cut off my studies. I left school. I moved out from my parents' home within 2 weeks, just with one big bag and getting on the train, living with a friend for 2 weeks, and then had my own apartment in Hamburg. And I do not regret it. Like in the back, I'm always like, yeah, you should have studied business economy until the end because it's pretty. You could have earned more money. I never thought like that. So just live. Okay, live your dreams again. That cliche, but and just do it. Just do what you love. Try to be authentic and support each other. I think support is the most important. But be honest and really just do what you love.
Yes, that's a really inspiring answer. Also, I meant a little bit more specific, maybe. Did you have, I don't know, were you already in contact with the label before? Did you have what kind of specific credentials did you use to apply for the job? I don't know.
On my end, it was pretty funny what happened. So I used to I used to work for Amazon Music, and I had a colleague from Amazon, a friend of mine. He was on LinkedIn, and he saw an offer for an A&R job at Nuclear Blast. He was not into metal, but he knew I was, and so he told me, "Hey, I saw this job offer, and I thought about you." And I was like, "Yeah, but the requirement, I have 15 years as a A&R. I've never been an A&R in my life. I've only done marketing and digital. So it's not for me." And he said, "But you breathe metal, you live metal, so of course it's for you." And I said, "No, I cannot apply." And he said, "Yeah, you know what? It's because you're a girl. If you were a boy, you would just apply." And I said, "Okay, you know what? Because you say that, I'm going to apply. I will get a no, and you'll see." And so I did apply. I received an automatic email saying no. But then 1 week after, Jerome, who is the head of the label in Europe, he called me saying, "Hey, you applied to that job. I don't know why, because that was really not fitting your resume. But I'm thinking about creating a marketing department, and I think you could be a good fit. So do you want to have a call?" And this is how it started. And then I had the interviews and stuff. So really, it was just
Oh, yeah.
completely by chance.
That is so awesome. And that was exactly what I was thinking. So thank you so much for sharing that anecdote, because that is, I think that happens a lot. And yes, I think that also happens a lot more to women, that we think, nah, I don't have a chance, so I just won't try it. And a lot of times it happens actually like that, that if you try it, if you really want it, no matter how many tiles you lack, maybe they will give you a chance. If the people hiring are smart, they will give you a chance. I think also, and I heard this lately on a podcast, and they were actually talking about the film and series TV show industry, and they were talking about women hiring other women and not thinking about having all of these requirements, all of those years of experience, because in the end you can also develop a lot through the job, in the job, and gain that experience. And also, if you don't have that experience, where will you get it if every job is requiring you so many years of experience, right? You have to start somewhere. So that is an amazing story. Like, they created specifically for you and they made you a job. That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
basically,
so cool.
it's true that so after I had some interviews, and I had to write a strategy doc and so on, but it's true that when creating the job description, Jerome called me regularly to say, "Hey, what do you think of the job description?" and so on. So it was really, really nice to even participate in that and participate in creating your own job desk. So yeah,
Yeah.
I got pretty lucky on that.
That is really amazing. We need more of those. Yeah, we need more of those kinds of bosses.
Yeah, and we try to be. I'm pretty sure Leo and I, this is the type of bosses we are trying to be. So
Absolutely.
Yes. I think that's also a good segue to go over to the big topic of today, because as we were saying, you are two female metalheads in really important jobs in a metal record label. And Pia has the story on this, on why we are here today.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the reasons why we are talking today is a story that you posted on Instagram a few weeks ago, showing comments of so-called fans. And I think you also requested to people who agree with these comments to unfollow your account and to stop basically consuming your work, so to speak. And yeah, the comments were misogynistic and attacking you as a woman. So yeah, please, first of all, tell us more about that.
yeah, so we had this idea all together. So with Leo, with Miriam also, who is the creative strategist at NB, and with some other ladies in PR in the UK and US, to work on an activation for Women's Day, and then Women's Month, actually Women's History Month. because it became bigger and bigger as we were discussing. And so we invited a lot of people, and actually we were so impressed by all the replies we got, and that was amazing. And so people shared, some very inspiring women, they shared their story on how they were into metal. And what I think, and what we think, probably Leo, you will confirm, is that those testimonials were super positive, super inclusive, and beside that, we surprisingly received some really bad comments, some just sexist, and with not real it was not real feedback on the comment, just pure sexist comments. And so we felt that we had to defend all the women and men that agreed to participate to this campaign, that were willing to share their story, and who just got those super bad comments in reply. And so we felt we have to stand up for that, stand up against those comments. And so we decided to make that message, that story, that we wrote all together as well.
Yeah, it were pretty generic comments like women do not belong in metal or never trust what a woman says. So it were very comments where you knew that people maybe didn't even watch the video, but just wanted to prove their point that there's no place for women in metal, which is not true. Like, just look at us. So this was we were pretty, well, I can only speak for myself, from what comes to my feelings, but it was pretty shocking to see that the ground for misogynism is still that huge in metal.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that when we posted that story, we received a lot of DMs saying thank you, or with hearts, with very positive comments. So that meant that a lot of people were feeling happy that we stood for this. And also, I think a lot of people reshared it. Surprisingly, why they don't usually reshare NB content in general. So that felt good to feel that people had our back as well.
Yeah.
So in total, the feedback for this whole campaign and also for this post were mostly positive?
Yes,
Really.
also
The cool thing is the community started to spontaneously fight against bad comments. We started to do it, and then spontaneously, post after post, we saw that people from the community were just replying and say, "Hey, just stop your bullshit." And so that was great.
What I also loved to see was that many other people from the industry reshared it, not only like employees of Nuclear Blast, but also from other from our mother companies, I believe, other labels. A lot of other label manager who were like, "Hey, that's one of our labels, and we're proud for what we stand for." And that's what I really love to see.
Yeah, on the one hand, it's a sad thing that men mostly listen to men, but that makes it so important that also men stand up and say, "Hey, this sexist comments, they don't belong here, and women definitely belong to the metal scene."
Yes.
Yeah, and we had some artists, some male artists participating. We still have a few videos to post, actually. But that was really great to see that they wanted to also talk for the Women's History Month and explain how they were happy to have more women in the industry, because thanks to women, they have a better atmosphere in the tour bus, because there were lots of examples that they gave, and that's super heartwarming.
Yeah, diversity is good for everyone. So
Yes, definitely.
It's just obvious. It's sad that we still get some super sad cliches appearing in the feed.
So is this a thing, or this kind of comments, do they happen in general, or was this only an effect because of this Women's Day and Women's Month?
No, I also saw some of them on campaign videos, like
Yeah.
official music videos for female bands.
Mm. Yeah, I can imagine that.
I like body shaming. Happens more often when the singer is a woman.
Mm.
Like, oh, look at her arms, or look how fat has she become. Like, of course, this is more likely to happen when it's a woman, which is still awful. Like, no one cares
Yes.
about how much the singer weighs when he's a man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Or what men wear on stage,
Mm.
or so many things. Nobody
Yes.
cares, right? And I mean, we know by now social media has been around for so many years. By now we know what a troll is. By now we know, or I think we can recognize, or as content creators and artists who publish stuff, we can recognize what a troll is, what a person is when a person is posting hateful comments just for the hell of it, right? But sometimes still it can just affect, I don't know, affect you, right? And it's really heartbreaking to see how it could affect young artists who are just starting out. And this was such a great interview. I'm coming back to that so often in these later podcast episodes. But when we talked to Charlie Rolfe from As Everything Unfolds, that was one of her concerns. Actually, she said that, as we all, and by we all, I don't mean only women. I mean all humans, right? We all have our insecurities. Sometimes, some of us struggle with anxiety, and seeing critique on the internet that might be not even referring to what you're doing, in this case music or vocals, right, but actually your appearance or the way you dress or some stuff like that can really affect you. And she was concerned about that, and that's how she told us that she actually needed a safe space, a safer space, that being a super public figure on social media. And that is something so sad. But at the same time, I mean, it. I want to see it as empowering to be able to take care of yourself and just say, okay, I don't want to deal with that, so I'm gonna take a step back and make a safer space where I can share what I want to share, and know that I won't be attacked.
Mm. But I think it also stops a lot of women to actually start a band or being part of a band and stuff like that, or show themselves, because they know these comments will come.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will comment on
Exactly.
your appearance and later on your talent or skills or whatever.
Of course, there are also some female artists who are like, okay, yeah, I want to use this picture, but then be like, no, we cannot use this picture because I know what comments will happen after that.
Mm.
So I think this insecurity, or this reflection of how the people will react when it comes to pictures, to videos, to things like everything visual, is way bigger and inhibits women way more than it inhibits men.
Yeah. And to all men who listen to this podcast right now, it also depends on energy levels. It really drains your energy when you have to read these comments all the time, and when you see how people are just staring at you or whatever. So it's not, of course, you can say you have to be brave, you have to stand over that. Yeah, you can say all of that, but it is exhausting. And so we have to decide every day if we can handle this or if we can't, because our energy level might be low. Or maybe we just don't want to be sexualized at all. And
Yes,
that's why,
exactly.
yeah, we
And of course, that is a way bigger topic, right? That comes from beauty standards that have been triggered onto us for decades and decades through media consumption, through magazines that show women that are photoshopped, and etc., etc. And that, yes, as well, beauty standards do also affect men and or male presenting people, and of course all of the non-binaries in between. But that is something that we have to change, and the only thing we change that is by showing more types of bodies and more colors of skin and more people who present themselves how they want, and just not conforming to the standards and to the norms that are until now. And that means that we just should stop the hate. So
Yes.
let everybody be themselves, and and that's how we will be able to get to know all the variety and diversity of people that exist all around the world. And I'm so sorry for that beautiful chorus of meowing in the background.
Your cat is just being himself.
He has the Sumis. Yeah, he also has the right to exist.
Of course.
I think about what you said, there is also some people who do things without really realizing how hurtful they can be. And this is something we really read in the comments, like, oh, come on, we are just laughing here. But it's just that sometimes people think they are just laughing, but it can hurt you for years. And just thinking about something, I mean, at that time, there were no social networks, but when I was a teenager, I had a terrible skin. I still have a terrible skin, actually. And I had to wear foundation, and my boyfriend at that time, one day I had no foundation. He said, "Oh, can you please put foundation again? Because when you don't have foundation, you're not attractive."
Wow.
And until I think it's only until 1 year or 2 years ago that I could start going out on Sundays, for example, just buying bread without foundation. So probably it lasts for 15 years that I could not do anything, even going to the beach or anything without putting foundation. And I think, and he's a friend now. And when I mentioned it to him a couple of years ago, he said, "But I don't even remember that. It was a joke." I was like, "Yeah, but sometimes the joke you make, you don't realize how hurtful they can be and how they can create a trauma in,
Mhm.
in when you receive such a sentence." So yeah, I think people sometimes don't just realize the
Yeah.
power of what they say.
Words are powerful, yes, more than we realize. That's true.
Mm.
And when you read, I guess it's even worse than because there is a trace. So when you hear it, it's already hurtful. But when it's written and you can refer to it and refer to it, probably.
Yeah, because you
Mhm.
also know there are so many other people also reading this.
Yeah.
And especially from people who do not even know you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Coming back to nuclear blast, how does your company deal with this topic? So do they support you, or do they don't really think about the topic at all? So how is the situation in your company?
I think we have a very. Oh no, do you want to start?
No, go ahead.
I think we have a very strong team spirit at the moment. But I feel like when I share something like that with my team, everyone's pretty supportive. So especially like when we had this story, we also had many Nuclear Blast employees who shared it. So I really feel like Nuclear Blast became a pretty open company. Like we're pretty aware of these cliches, but everyone's really standing behind the values that we share.
Yeah, agree. To me, everyone was supportive.
Yeah.
About the initial idea of dedicating 1 month to Women's History Month first, and then when we post that story, just everybody said it was great. Men and women.
Hmm. And how many women work in nuclear blast in general, and also compared to male colleagues? Is it kind of 50-50, or because you mentioned earlier that you also have I think I know the colleague who lives in Finland. Is it Silke?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a woman too, and
Yeah.
I also know some other women in nuclear blast, but also men. So that's why I'm asking.
But that's a good question. I cannot really say how the percentage is, but well, in my department that I'm handling, it's all female except one male head of media relations manager.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'd say overall 50-50. If I think of the different teams,
Yeah.
The project managers, the digital managers, like yeah, overall, I would say it's 50.
I think we have the most female department.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yes.
What would you say in general, how sexist is the metal scene, maybe compared to general society?
I find it pretty difficult because I just had this the discussion with another friend these days. Metal to me is sometimes like it really shuts down its eyes from for reality. Like whereas many other music scenes are really open about what happens. Like just think about all the pop artists who share their experience with sexism, all the like actors in hip hop. It's a pretty open issue, which you know that it is pretty sexist. But when it comes to metal, I just feel like the whole issue starts, the awareness just starts to rise. But at the moment, you cannot even be pretty sure about the actual status quo because it has been kept behind locked doors for a very long time.
Mm.
So as for me, I do not really have a feeling for how sexistic it is. Like we have many really great managers. We have many great female managers who also handle very big bands, and who are really respected. So I find it pretty difficult to say if it's sexistic or not. What would you say, Tiffany?
I was thinking about my personal experience and having been, going to gigs and festivals and that for 15, 16 years. I've never experienced personally um, anything sexist, I would say. So I was lucky in my own experience, and now since I've been working in the industry, but again I just have a partial view because uh, I'm just working remotely, and this is NB, and this is just what I see. I haven't experienced anything sexist beyond this social networks thing. So in general, I most of my friends, my female friends, they are not in metal. So in general, I always tend to say that I would recommend to be in the metal scene because there are lots of great people and great guys, and yeah, so I have a rather positive experience.
Mm. I also think it's difficult to answer the question because when we look at bands, especially, so now there are more and more women, but when I look at the scene 10 years ago, there were only so few women. And it sometimes also the issues that women have, they just were not a thing because it was so male dominated, the whole scene. But still, I don't have the impression that they are against women and they don't want them in. So it's a very open community, but still very male dominated.
Yeah, yeah, because for example, if you're going to a gig or you're in a festival and everybody's super crowded, I find it more easy as a woman that people like will just push to give way or be sure if you're falling that they will help you. Like I have the feeling people are rather protective with women in gigs and festivals. So, but yeah, it's maybe because we are 10% of the audience. So.
Better not break the women. There are so few.
But not only that, I think also when I had a very short period at Nuclear Blast when very even gigs when I worked there, so I could meet my artists, and it always was very respectful. So I would say the respect for women is pretty high, especially for artists. The other managers, I wouldn't say that they are be like, you're just a woman, what do you want to tell me? Or how can we cooperate? Like they really value also the women's side of you because it is what it is. Women have a different way of looking at things, and I think that all of our artists really appreciate it.
Maybe it's like in general society that 10% of people are just assholes, and that's the same everywhere. That's the trolls who commented these bad things on, female artists and everything.
That is true. I also have a bit of a different view, I think, on that whole topic. I think metal wants to be, or metalheads want to be the most welcoming community in the music subgenres and subcultures. So I do think we pride ourselves as very tolerant and open and welcome, but when it really comes to that, it's not always the truth. I do think that metal is also one of the best gate-kept communities, which is not a good thing. So gatekeeping, and for that I have a podcast recommendation. Just a Girl? Is that the podcast? I
Just a
think
Girl.
so. Yes.
Yep.
Just a Girl podcast.
They had the topic lately. Yeah.
They had the topic of gatekeeping lately, and it was really interesting to see how they themselves thought or talked about themselves being gatekeepers at some point, and saying, "Well, I finally had found music that I like, a community where I belonged to, and I didn't want it to be a thing where." Like everybody's thing. I want it to be special, right? So I think we can maybe, or I can at least relate to that a little bit. But to be on the other side of that gate is also uncomfortable to have to prove to somebody else that you belong there.
Are
right?
you allowed to wear that Slayer shirt?
Name 4
Oh,
Slayer
my
songs
goodness.
before you wear that shirt.
Exactly.
Right? Oh, you're here to see that band. Which is your favorite album, or how many times have you seen them live? Right? Are you a true metalhead? So that you earn. How have you earned the right to be here in my very special community? I did have some of those experiences myself when I was younger, and yes, so it's that kind of balance. Of course, we, as Pia just said, right? We sometimes just stumble upon this low percentage of idiots, or mean people, bullies. I don't know, and maybe the rest of the time we are actually a very happy and welcoming community. While it's also those other kinds of experiences. You're at Wacken and somebody runs into you by accident, and if your beer fell to the floor, they for sure will buy you a new one. Things like that. And that happens, I don't know, whoever you are, that then it doesn't matter how you look
But you're
or
right.
how you identify. But
You're
yeah.
right. It's true that when you asked about our experience, I rather thought of as a woman, but this is so true that being a true metalhead, this is something we all experience. Like, oh, you're not listening to that super uh, black metal from the forest stuff. Oh, no, but you're never true enough. You will always find people who are more true metalheads than you are. So this is really experience that I shared as well. But
Yeah.
I think
I've been
at some
listening
point,
to that band since before they were famous.
yeah, exactly. But I think at some point when you grow up, you just drop it. I don't care that
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Ghost, and if that doesn't
Ghost
please to
rocks.
people, yeah, I don't care. But yeah, it's just when you're younger, it's true that it affects you because you feel like you're not really part of the community, and you have to listen to more extreme stuff. So yeah, that's a super relevant point.
But I think it's the same way. It just needs more role models to be like, okay, I'm not a true metalhead, or I'm not a true metalhead, and I know this, and I'm fine with this, because when I started listening to metal, I just listened to black metal, and I was like, okay, I just have to listen to black metal, and I have to learn the whole history, because otherwise I'm not sure enough. And through the years, I had more and more friends, and I got to know more and more people who were absolutely no metalheads. One was absolutely into sneakers. Another one had a secret love for like classic music, things like that. And apart from that, I learned soon that these are the cool people, because they also get influences from there, and they have such a wider horizon, which also helps into developing metal. because if there weren't any influences from other music, we couldn't have all these cool metalheads that influenced me. I think I was born in 96 I was born 1996, and the bands that I grew up with aren't the true metal bands. I didn't grow up with Slayer, with Iron Maiden, with all these bands that everyone is like, you have to listen to them. No, I grew up with Papa Roach, with Linkin Park, and I love these bands, even though everyone says, no, that's not true metal.
Me too.
Yeah.
But I think they have when I read articles and everything now, there are a lot of people who are around 30 now in the scene, and all of them refer to Papa Roach, Linkin Park, and so on. So there's this new generation of us who had these bands for this new metal, whatever band.
They were influenced by hip hop, so if there weren't influences from other music genres, we couldn't have these cool bands we have now.
That's very true.
Yeah. I'm done with my questions, Kiki, but I'm pretty sure you have some questions of your other favorite topic.
All of my favorite topics, yes. This is a favorite episode, talking about sexism and then talking about marketing. Oof, I'm so happy today. At the beginning of our conversation, you were saying that you also develop the marketing strategies and the communication strategies for your artists. So what are like the most important goals that let's say independent artists would have to set for themselves in those strategies?
Wow. One thing that I think applies for maybe everything is that you cannot be good at everything. I mean, it's better to pick your battles. It's better to be excellent at one or two things and just okay with the rest than trying to be good everywhere. Like, for example, it can be on, let's say, even something like the social platforms. Like, it's better to really try to grow your community on one platform than trying to be on Twitch, on Instagram, on YouTube, on VK, on Twitter. You know, we all have a limited time and energy. So yeah, I would say for everything you do, pick what's really important to you, focus on that, grow that, make it big and big and big, and the rest, just take care of it, but not that much effort. That's my advice in general.
Oh, that's good.
I think choose your weapon and be who you are. Like, have one characteristic trait you want the people to remember you for.
That is really nice.
Like, focus on one thing, as Tiffany said.
Would that also apply to like a certain audience? Do you think it is better to look for a niche instead of, aiming for all of the people? As a young artist, maybe, of course you want everybody to listen to your music, but you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, and I think it's important also to nurture your community and not trying just to grow, but also, the people who have been following you from the start, and that it's important to take care of them, to reward them, to engage them, to make them part as well of your decisions, maybe, because they've been with you from the start. So yeah, even if you want to grow, and it's important to grow as well, it can be part of your strategy, but I think it's important not to forget your core audience and the guys who have been with you from the start.
Yes, that's really good. And you also already started a topic that it's become my favorite question for 2021. And talking about social media and what I was referring before, the our talk with Charlie Rolfe from As Everything Unfolds. The safe space I was talking about that she found as a social platform was Discord. And I don't know if you know the platform, but Discord started as this, voice communication tool from the gaming community, and is now growing bigger and bigger in every community, like not only in the music business and in the gaming communities, but also in many, many others. And I attended the Future Music Camp digitally last week, and it even came up in a talk as well. It was a talk about hip hop though. But anyway, is that something you integrate in your communication strategies now? Would you advise bands to look into getting their own Discord servers to grow their communities there?
I don't have enough expertise on that matter, to be honest. I saw it quite a lot recently as well in articles, and have to deep dive on that.
Yeah,
Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, I know some bands using it, but I haven't been such a fan of it because I find, especially for artists who do not have any shows at the moment, Twitch the better weapon of choice because you can directly support your artists with that. And you still have a direct link to your community with a chat, like you can directly react on it, you can directly talk to them. So as for me, I'm more a fan of Twitch since you really have this supportive, little bit like concertism style with instead of buying tickets, you can support your artist this way. The artist can directly talk to you whereas because Discord is nice if you really want to keep it small, if you want to keep like a fan meeting, something like that. But for really growing your audience and having like the concert experience, like wanting to compensate the live experience, I would rather recommend Twitch.
Yes, that's a very good one too. I mean, I've been talking about Twitch on this podcast for years now, since I started following Matt Tiffany from Trivium on there, and he is for me the best practice in live streaming and in general, like it's a big source of income for him. I loved when he was touring, he was streaming every concert throughout the tour. He got this this backpack with a modem and a good camera, so he could stream it and even plug it into sometimes he could plug it into the sound booth so that it was even really great quality sound. And of course he has tons and tons of subscribers there and gets a lot of revenue probably from that. So yeah, and when I always love talking about this because when the pandemic hit, he already had his crowd and his audience on Twitch so very well trained, even that they knew how to make a mosh pit, quote unquote, in the chat, and you had the feeling you were at a concert. And so when they did their whole big live stream event for the pandemic, and it was a huge production, very great, high quality. They probably spent a lot of money on that as well, and tickets were only like $9, and they sold around 11,000 tickets or something. And I wasn't there. Of course, I wasn't there. I didn't watch it live, but I saw even a report about it on online magazine Morecore, German online magazine Morecore, and they wrote, or the journalists wrote that they even had the feeling of being there because there were mosh pits happening in chat, and people using headbanging emotes and the horns and everything, and that is of course years of work come to fruition. But if it's not now, then now you're already late to the party, kind of, but you have to start now if you're not there yet.
Yeah, that is super, super inspiring. I agree.
Yes. Another thing that caught my attention when you were talking about your tasks and duties in Nuclear Blast was you talked about games, developing games as part of the campaigns for your artists. Was that also include video games, like bigger productions? Or what kind of games are you talking about exactly?
Oh, it's more social games. So we are working with a tool called Fast Story, for example.
Mhm.
So it's mini games you can embed in stories, and you can customize with, let's say, it can be a blind test, it can be hit, no, a runner games, it can be, yeah, you have a lot of different games that you can customize for the artist, swipe left and right, that kind of stuff. So we are trying to, yeah, leverage that type of good games on social.
Okay, that's cool. That was actually also kind of it was one of the topics of the talks at the Future Music Camp. Um, and of course, they were only talking theory, right? And saying, telling us numbers about the video game industry and how much money they produce, or how much revenue game developers get, and that is a very important market for the future of the music industry. And we saw that as well, again, at the start of the pandemic and the social isolation and everything. We saw games like Fortnite and VR Chat, where people could actually like meet, and concerts happening in that kind of virtual reality. So yeah, apparently that is also a thing we should keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
There was one on
We're
Pokemon
exploring.
Go as well.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
on
yeah,
on
with
Pokemon
Post Malone.
Switch. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's ideas that we have and that we know, but it's just also finding like the bands that we exactly, because we don't want just to size opportunities because it's trendy. For example, if we were to do, I don't know, a World of Warcraft live stream,
Mhm.
it's not happening. It's it's just an example. I don't want to propose that to a band who do not like genuinely World of Warcraft.
Of
I
course.
think it's super important to make things that are authentic. And so this is where it's tricky because, of course, you could propose super good idea because it's trendy,
Mhm.
but this is no, at
It's
least
not
not my way
sustainable.
to approach it. I only want to propose things that I know the band will like and will see it fits. So yeah, but of course we stay in touch with the trends and also the NFTs, and like there are
Mhm.
lots of super interesting topics around gaming, NFTs and stuff that we have in mind. Is just we have to find the right matches.
Yeah, in
That's
the end, you
amazing.
always have to meet the audience of a band. That's always what you have to keep in mind.
For sure. Yes, that is very important, to do something that is authentic and that your audience wants to see. Thank you so much for all of your very, very interesting insights. Is there anything else you want to say, or any topics you want to discuss?
Just thank you so much for inviting us and for having these conversations, which are super important to have. So yeah, thanks a lot for your podcast and for having us part of it.
There's nothing to add.
Thank you so much for being here. And I think a really good conclusion for the whole episode, because we had this when it came to marketing, we had this when it came to being women in metal and also applying to the job, is just be yourself and be authentic. That's really important. And that's what matters, and what mattered in everything that we were talking about. It sums up everything, I think.
Hell yeah.
So thank you so much for listening, also, people out there. And if you like this episode, follow the Meta and High Heels podcast on Spotify and Stitcher, or wherever you listen to this podcast. You can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you want. And the show notes for this episode are on metal-and-highheels.com/podcast89. We're, of course, also on Instagram, Facebook. I don't know. You will find us somewhere. And just, yeah, you can also leave us voice messages if you want to greet someone in this podcast.
For sure. And the thing that we have to remind our listeners about right now is that we are making a survey. So we are asking you for your help and for your support in filling out a very quick survey. It's, I don't know how many questions, but it takes 10 minutes tops. We want to hear from you. We want you to be part of the future of our podcast. The link is going to be out there. It is already out there, and it will be in the show notes as well. And we thank you in advance. And thank you so much for your time and for being here. And yes, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
See you
Thank you.
next time.